Welcome to Battle Buddies. On today's episode, we have a very special guest. We have Ron. And with Ron, he's going to be a different type of guest for us than we've had, and it marks kind of a growth for us in that he was an infantryman, and he saw a lot of combat. And what I really, really appreciate about Ron, and I think that you will too, is his just complete honesty and transparency. Is like he is trying to tell you his story as best he can. And I think it's for the reason that he isn't exactly sure how his story is going to help. So he's trying not to put a slant on it. He's trying to just tell you the facts as he understands them so that we can keep learning and growing as people. I very much enjoyed our conversation. I found him to be incredibly insightful. His journey from being kind of an angry teenager to being this very reflective, very kind and sincere person now is breathtaking. I got emotional a few times listening to his story and his change and his battling of the mental aspect of, being an active combat soldier. He'll talk about it. I don't want to speak for him, but his talking towards the end about trying to fight against the feeling of going numb was powerful, and it felt powerful. A little background that when I was listening to the episode on things that you may not know or we may not clear up for you all, is that when he was overseas, he was working with Strykers, and he's going to say that a few times, and I believe that the Strykers are the armored vehicles that they worked around. So him and his group would work with this armored vehicle that would try to protect them against, various assaults, and then they would use that as the stationing for when they had to, knock on doors essentially and try to find the people they were trying to find. Please listen to this with an open mind. As always, come talk to us if you have any questions, concerns, comments, love you want us to pass on to Ron. We'd love to do that. And I guess it's time for the intro music.
Okay. The harder the conflict, the greater the triumph.
A fiercest serpent may be overcome by a swarm of ants.
Lead me, follow me, or get out of my way. Age wrinkles the body, quitting wrinkles the soul. Battle Buddies.
Battle Buddies.
We're on it?
Yeah, I think it's on.
Okay, I've been thinking about this all day, and I have a really good icebreaker that I want to bring up. Okay?
You're cutting into my bits?
Yeah, I am. Yes. Sorry, bro. This has been 24 hours in the making. Last night, so me and my wife were obsessed with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. We're on our third run through all the episodes, but now we're watching the corresponding podcast after each episode.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so last night after a podcast, they were talking about how much beer they've had in one sitting. When you look back at your college days or military days or whatever, what do you think is the most that you've drinking? Probably, when we're talking we're drinking Bud Light, okay? We're not drinking IPAs, we're not sipping on IPAs, we're not sipping on whiskey. We're talking Bud Light day. You have... how many have you think you gone in one day, the most amount of beer you've drank in one day? And try to be honest.
No, I'm trying to be honest. We've done a couple games in college, wizard staffs.
Yeah.
You guys play a lot of wizard staffs in barracks?
There was the Edward 40 hands. I remember the Edward 40 hands. I don't know about the
wizard staff. Every time you finish a beer, you tape it to your beer that you're currently drinking under it so that you can build a big staff by the end of the day. That's fun. Those are important days. I think, honestly, the most is more than I would have thought because we were at the lake and we were jet skiing all day. And it just turns out that if you don't drink water, you have to drink something to not die in the sun. So I was I've had a lot more Bud Lights than I thought possible.
Ballpark it. How many are you thinking?
I'd say 15.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. That's a good amount. So...
10's usually my limit before things get I don't remember what happens after.
After 10 drinks,
I'm done.
You're just off into a different planet, right?
I'm kind of a lightweight.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So when I was in intelligence school in Virginia, It was the Super Bowl. I believe it was the Cardinals versus the Steelers. Does that sound right? Like 2009 time frame?
You're asking the wrong person.
Sure. Okay. Between me and 2 other Marines, I'm pretty sure we had like 64 beers.
That's 64 divided by 3.
So like 20...
Beer math.
21 and a half? Is that a thing? I don't know.
You just split one at the end?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a
But
lot.
the next day, we looked in our bathtub. It was just filled with beer cans. And then I found in my phone a picture of my buddy. And he had stabbed a K-bar into the wall. And he was like pointing at it and smiling. And for those of you who don't know, this is a schoolhouse in the military. So like we had to go out to Home Depot and like patch it up. Yeah. What do you think? He's like, yesterday?
So I think last year we had a 2-week AT, annual training, in my reserve unit. And I did the math, and it was approximately 2,200 beers a week between like 12 to 16 people, roughly. So
Okay.
if we do the beer math there,
Yep.
that might be between 15 and 30 beers per person.
Okay.
I remember when I was in the infantry, I finished a 40-pack of those Mickey's mini kegs with my roommate. And
In a day.
in a night.
In a
And then
night.
he kicked me in the face later on from the top bunk,
That-
and we got in a little fight, and there was blood everywhere, and
Ooh.
it was like an incident.
Carnage.
But we ended up being great friends, and
As it happens.
he's a wild dude from what's that? Indiana.
Okay.
So yeah, he's kind of goofy.
Yeah. Dude, welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you.
We're super stoked to have you. Like, it means the world to us that you would travel out here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Battle Buddies. We are stoked to be here with a new guest. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. However you want to introduce yourself.
We're doing a code name?
Want to do a code
no,
name?
I'll just
Call
say
sign?
I'm Ron.
Ron. Hi,
Yeah.
Ron.
And,
Hi, Ron.
I'm happy to be here as well. I definitely like hanging out with, teachers are cool. I have a lot of respect for you guys' profession, and I like hanging out with fellow veterans any chance that I get. It's
Oh,
always
yeah.
a good time for the most part.
Absolutely.
And I'm happy to share with you whatever I can to contribute to your guys' podcast, and it's an honor to be here. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yeah. So for those of you listening, we got a fellow veteran here, combat veteran. Would that be safe to say?
Yeah. I spent 2 years in Iraq. One is infantry and one is transportation. So
Okay.
11
Okay.
Bravo, 88
Yeah.
Mike,
Mhm.
if you're looking at MOSs. So it's like, I don't know, 600 and something, almost like 700 days or something
Whew.
Gee whiz.
in
dude.
Iraq. And then I did some contracts later on in Afghanistan and North Africa. But that's not nearly as dangerous.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Dude, do you have your bit now? Would
Yeah,
like to
I'm like,
pigeonhole
I'm
your
chomping at
bit?
the bits.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's Kevin's bit. Let's do it.
Okay. It's a question. God, it's not even funny anymore. No, it's gonna be great. If you were in the movie trope where you have to like go up against your self from like the future or from the past, and they're like, I always know where you would hide because you're me. And that doesn't make any sense to me because I never know what I'm going to do. And so I don't know if it's like an ADHD thing, like I would not do well against myself because me and myself just would not understand what the hell we're doing anyway. Like there's no guessing. Like I can't guess where I'm going to be an hour from now.
Yeah.
But for you guys, what happens? You go up against your clone, you go up against yourself from like parallel dimension or from like in like a looper scenario. Like do you know where you're hiding if you guys are in like a gunfight? Like I know I always hide behind the door.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like fighting myself would be the last person I'd want to fight. If I'm being, not to sound
That
like
is
a
the biggest
douchey
ego
asshole.
move in the
I don't
world.
want to fight myself.
I'm the
No.
scariest man alive.
It's actually an insult. I'm saying because I have like erratic behavior. Like
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
not a consistent person. You can ask my wife. She's like, it's hard to keep up with you. You drink coffee. You don't drink coffee. Like,
Well, that's true.
I'm all over the place. So I don't
You
think
stretch now.
I stretch now. Yeah, exactly. See, like I'm constantly changing my behavior. So I don't think it would be easy.
Okay. We're calling bullshit on this trope so far. Ron, what are you doing?
Well, I had an experience where I almost shot somebody in their head doing training, and it really scared me.
Yeah.
So I have been very conscious about when I pull the trigger, it better be
Sure.
to kill somebody.
Yeah.
And this was with an M249 machine gun.
Yeah.
And so if I was going to fight myself and I saw me as the target, I don't think I could pull the trigger.
Whoa.
It's a good thing to say.
Um,
That sounds like somebody who's had a lot of training.
Such a better answer
That's
than
a really
mine.
good. Yeah. Wait. So can we back up for a second?
Sure.
Would you consider yourself law enforcement?
No.
Okay. What would you consider yourself?
I'm just a contractor. I do close protection.
Okay. Because I feel like what you just said is what I would really hope a lot of cops
Seriously,
would say. Is that
Ron, that's
fair?
like the most like
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well,
casually
I mean,
thoughtful answer
Yeah,
I've
that was
heard.
really wonderful. Like you really, I feel like you knew that was coming.
well, I just think when it comes to the business of killing or doing God's work
Yep.
or whatever you want to call it, you have to not kill the wrong people,
Absolutely.
and you have to engage and destroy the enemy when they're going to kill those around you that you care about.
Sure.
And if there's any other reason for it, I think it's wrong. And
Yep.
cops have a really difficult time with their profession because they are essentially they're taking what is lethal force and they have a monopoly on that.
Yep.
So they have to deal with it, and it's really not it's not an easy task to have to deal with having a monopoly on lethal force when you're not supposed to kill people.
Sure.
That's a really good
It-
point.
And so there's that conflict of the federal government
Mm-hmm.
and the local and state government have to have a monopoly on that violence versus the citizens. But
Right.
the citizens also have the ability to defend themselves.
Right.
So it's just like with all this freedom and responsibility, you also have to have good morals, I think. And and it's just sad that police are either killed or forced to have to kill somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Spencer and I have been talking about it a lot, like thinking about potential episodes, going through it. We had like two like really good conversations where like it's just so much deeper of a question than we realized, like how law enforcement works and where the line is between law enforcement and military. And I hate even doing any kind of connection to my job because I just teach 7th and 8th graders. But we read The Hobbit, and Bilbo has the opportunity to kill Gollum, and he doesn't. And I was kind of taking some polls and kind of questioning the kids, and my kids did not understand why he didn't just choose violence right away. Like almost nobody saw like the beauty and like the pity that Bilbo had for this guy, where he's like, he's just a messed up guy, and like I don't think I have to end his life. I think I can just walk away from him. So I don't really have a point there. It's just I just found it interesting. Like you think kids reading the story be like, good, like he doesn't need to. That's how I read it as an adult. But like
You
kids,
had a hard time figuring that one out.
yeah, they're more like black and white.
That's interesting. I mean, would you say, Ron, that your military experience, because I know specifically for me it does, first and foremost, like shout out to law enforcement. I absolutely, my heart goes out to you. You guys do a job that a lot of people don't want to do, all that.
I don't
right?
want to do it.
And if I might comment,
Please do.
rule of law is very necessary for us to live in civil society.
Sure.
Yep.
Because without it, you have chaos, and people will not be able to go outside or leave
Yeah.
their doors open, and
Absolutely.
it will just descend into death and destruction.
100%. And so what I'm saying is, like, with all of your with your military background, do you have a hard time kind of sometimes seeing the way that law enforcement handles certain situations? Like, for instance, I remember watching that a documentary about the Rodney King riots, and one of the cops in those riots used to be a Marine, and he was like, dude, the way that the LAPD was handling this was the most crazy shit I've ever seen. Like, it's just not, he wasn't used to that. You know what I mean? Like, he was like, Marines would have just completely handled that entirely different.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't know, for me, like, dude, the way that, exactly what you said in the beginning, like, before I pull a trigger, I better know that what I'm doing before I squeeze, right?
And you can't take it back.
Right,
Can't take it
dude,
back.
no,
That's what I was raised
no.
off.
Like, you better, I remember when we were in Afghanistan, the whole thing that they were saying after we would listen to the ROE, the rules of engagement, like 1,000 times, was like, if you pull a trigger and the bullet goes down range or whatever, you better have an answer for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't just, it's not like Rambo. We're not just walking around willy-nilly shooting guns. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you believe that the United States and the military comes from a good place with good values, you would want to uphold those values by not just indiscriminately shooting anything.
Oh, that's interesting. Like the legacy, like this is what this foundation is. Like you got to honor that.
Yeah, we have a value system that we uphold. In like, if you don't uphold all of the values at all times, your career is going to be destroyed, and you'll be put in prison. Like you have to hold these values. And I know a lot of people don't. People cheat on their wives, and I've seen the dirty, grimy stuff in the military.
Absolutely.
But we have those values, and they are written in. They're codified, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the U.S. is corrupt. It's got all these things wrong with it. The military does bad things, but it comes from a place of good.
Yeah, that's good.
I like that.
There's no good or evil force. It's just everyone is either going to be good or not.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the individuals, they have choices to make, and sometimes they don't make good ones.
Yeah.
And the same thing with police. You know?
That's true.
Absolutely, that's true. Let me pull out my phone. I have some written down bullet points that I want to... Oh, so, Mr. Ron, can you kind of just give us a little background into, you know, what life was like before you joined the military, kind of why you joined the military? Give us a little background of, like, your just story of going into the service?
Sure. So I had a lot of trouble in high school, mainly... So I was in wrestling in middle school and high school, and then my shoulder got hurt, and I eventually stopped doing sports. And I think that's where I lost track of like academic goals, because I had no purpose after that. I was a very angry kid and person growing up, and I liked to fight. And I eventually got in trouble with females, and I had some guy over a woman come and shoot up my house with a .22 pistol, and he like punched me in the face and pulled the gun out and like threatened to kill me. And so I just got beat up, and I was hella mad about it. And then I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Ended up moving to Lake County, which really was a drag from Santa Rosa.
Right.
And I think I wanted to join the infantry in the Marine Corps. And I got out early with a California high school proficiency exam. And I went to the Marines, and they wouldn't take me with that. So I went to the Army, and they said, yeah, sure, we can use that. It's not a GED, or it's not a high school diploma. It's like a GED equivalent.
Right.
And I was like, all right, I got a good score on my test. I could do any job, and I just chose to be a grunt because I was like angry and violent. And I went in with the idea like I want to kill some people. And then I go into like the system, and I'm traveling to a new place, go to Fort Benning, and I'm stuck there for like 3 months at the holdover. And it was in I want to say July of 2001, summertime. And after 3 months of staying there, we get to our basic training, and we go through all the stuff that you do. And then we get to the basic rifle marksmanship. And they pull us off the line during our course of fire for practicing, learning how to shoot. And they take us back to the barracks, bring these TVs on stands, and it's 9/11. We see the towers get hit. And I'm like, oh, that's great news. Now we're going to get to kill some people.
So you're in basic training when this goes down?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they took us for 2 weeks and put us on gate guard for Fort Benning as like extra duty.
Yeah.
And then we got to finish our basic training after those 2 weeks and go back. And I think we were done in November that year. And then I was like, I want to go to Korea. So I went to Korea, and it was just, oh my God, like freezing, snow everywhere. We were doing like cold weather training. And it was like a complete debauchery fest. Like people are going off post and doing everything you can think of.
Right.
You know, there's a midget people talk about, the tokery midget.
Oh, like out in town, like just like...
Yeah, there's this Korean midget stripper, and like people have a T-shirt that says like "I fucked the midget." And
No shit?
yeah,
That's crazy.
God.
it's a thing, dude. You can even like find it on the internet. Like
Wow, so yeah, you really mean debauchery. Like
I do. Like every type of thing put in every type of orifice, and dudes just licking it up, and it's disgusting. And I'm like, what the hell is this? As a 17-year-old, barely turned 18, that after that Christmas, you know, and it was like, what the hell? And dudes are cheating on their wives, and they're just hooking up with hookers, and I was like, I didn't expect this. I thought we were supposed to like practice the values, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, shit. And then I started smoking over there in Korea.
Cigarettes.
Yeah, I started with Marlboro Lights, and I went to Newports. And I was like, this sucks. I'll tell you why it sucked. Not only was it like debauchery and everybody's kind of shady, but if I did something wrong, if I forgot any little thing, it was like you could smoke for a week. Okay. And that's like all night until 10 p.m. just getting thrashed, throwing up your food after you eat it. Like they'll just make you do flutter kicks and run down the hall. And like, it was like, I hated my life so much when I was like brand new private there. I was like, I want to freaking end it and kill myself.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of got mad, sucked it up, and we do our infantry drills, and I just got in really good shape and just started like being a stud, you know?
Yeah.
And like I passed my PT test with perfect score. They had this expert infantry badge thing, and I did that, won the badge, and then I did a 25-mile ruck march, passed that, and I was like, all right.
25-mile ruck march?
Yeah, they do this thing. So I was in Charlie Company 19 Manchu in Korea, and the Manchu Mile is a 25-mile ruck march with full kit, with rucksack and my machine gun.
For anybody who, I mean, I don't feel like I need to reiterate how that sounds extremely difficult. I mean, so in combat training for us, obviously I wasn't a grunt, but in Marine combat training, we had what was called the Trail of Tears in Camp Pendleton, and that was maybe, I believe, like 12 miles. And that was difficult.
Well, we did a 12-miler for the expert infantry badge.
Okay.
So it was a 12-miler ruck march, and then later on in the year they did the Manchu, and then you get this belt buckle that has like a 9th Infantry crest with like a dragon around.
That's
it.
cool.
Yeah.
And I had a belt buckle. Yeah.
You have to go for the belt buckles.
And you're not allowed to wear any other belt buckle in the Army, just that one. So I was like, all right.
That's dope. I like that. That sounds borderline worth it.
It was, but here's the thing. So I wore that when I left that unit. I went to Fort Lewis, Washington, because that's the Indian Head Black Shield patch is 2nd ID, 2nd Infantry Division.
Okay.
I went from Korea 2nd ID to Fort Lewis, Washington 2nd ID, and my unit, they saw that I had that belt buckle, and they were mad. And like, get down, do push-ups. And
what? You mean they were jealous?
They were jealous.
Yeah, they were
like,
for sure jealous.
They didn't think it was authorized, and I was like, that's a Manchu belt buckle. And I was pushing, right? And then the first sergeant, he's this like Ranger bat, got kicked out for choking out a private for making fun of it, the way he talks. Cuban dude. Heavy Cuban accent, right? And he just comes up and he's like, hey, recover. Hey, what's that, wild man? You know, talking like that. And I was like, I'll stand at parade rest. That's a Manchu belt buckle, first sergeant. He's like, Manchu, squared away. And everybody was all pissed, even worse, because first sergeant liked the belt buckle.
So for listeners who were not in the military, and for, Kevin and all that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the military, first sergeants are like, if you're in trouble, you're going to go talk to your first sergeant. They're all about, they're very administrative, right? Like
they're the company NCO.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
The company NCO. They take care of a lot of administrative work, a lot of disciplinary actions. They deal with a lot of bullshit. So if you find yourself, which I did a lot, talking to a first sergeant, kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Would that be fair to say?
Yes, and
Okay.
I never wanted to talk to him. He seemed to like saying my name because it's just a one syllable, and it was like, hey, like,
Yeah.
and he was always happy to like see me for some reason, and I think it was the Manchu belt buckle. And there was a lot of guys that didn't have their expert infantry badge, and I had one on my uniform. So you have this badge and this belt buckle, and he was like, "Oh yeah, squared away," And they were really big on Ranger tabs. Like if you had your Ranger tab, you're God.
So what does the Ranger tab mean?
What is that?
So there's Ranger Battalion, and then there's Ranger School. Ranger Battalion, you get in through this program, you get ripped and buff and whatever, and you become part of the Ranger Battalion, which is like, it's like if you imagine public high school versus prep school, like a private prep school.
Okay.
The regular infantry is like, you go in with this like the sewer rats, and then like the guys with all the money and the training, and they get extra gear. That's Ranger Battalion. and they learn how to do like air assault ops, and they get all the best gear and really good, like lots of bullets to train with, more money.
Mm.
And then special forces is kind of like more professional athlete. You know, they get more money than that, and personal doctors to make sure they get fit. Well, so we're like below Ranger Battalion in funding, but there were a lot of guys that came from Ranger Battalion. And if you're an infantry guy, you can go to Ranger school, and it's basically starve yourself for 64 days and go through 3 different types of terrain and not make your buddies hate you.
Okay.
So that's like a quick hot wash on what Ranger school
So
is.
I wonder which, because my cousin was a Ranger. He was airborne, so he was in Roberts Ridge. I don't know if that was just one of the operations that were going on at that time.
Was Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was he in Ranger Battalion, or was he just someone who went to Ranger school?
I don't know.
So this is okay.
That's like, it's really blowing my mind that I don't know the answer. I know that he was airborne, but I don't know.
Well, so Kevin and I we ran into this problem when we were doing this the episode on the Battle of Mogadishu, Black Hawk Down. Go listen to that episode if you haven't. But there was a gentleman, he was a private in there, and we were like, wait, so is he a Ranger or is he not a Ranger?
Oh, that's right. We were
And so
talking about
correct me
that.
if I'm wrong, but like, you can be a Ranger but not have gone through Ranger indoctrination program, right?
So you can no.
No.
You're
Oh, okay.
either you passed RIP and you're in Ranger Battalion, you're a Ranger. Doesn't matter what rank you are.
Right.
Oh,
But
okay.
you can also be Ranger qualified if you have gone, I think it's Ranger qualified. If you go to Ranger school and pass and you get your Ranger tab, you're Ranger tabbed. And like that's something that Rangers are encouraged to do, but it's not required, I think. And then a Ranger will have a Ranger scroll if they're in a Ranger unit. And if they go to combat, they get to wear that scroll for the rest of their life.
Mm.
So that's the difference. Ranger Battalion is a unit. Ranger School is a school. And you get an award called the Ranger Tab on your shoulder you can wear on your uniform.
Interesting.
And so they're both important.
Yeah.
I think Ranger Battalion is more important than Ranger School, but Ranger School is more of a leadership and suck school. It's like
Got it.
like Ranger School is compared to the Special Forces selection.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so it's tough. You starve, and like 2 MREs a day. You're starving, and
Yes, sir.
you're humping and doing patrols and leading, and you switch off leading. Like as far as I understand it, I never went,
Yeah.
Okay.
and I didn't want to go. I've
Yeah.
never really had the opportunity, but you know, maybe I'd pass, maybe I wouldn't. Who knows?
Well, you were a stud,
Can-
dude.
can we go
You're
back?
Squared away.
So, what was it? Was there any like noticeable change when the towers fell? Like, for as far as I'm thinking of like how your leaders operated, right? Like, did the higher ups on your base change their behavior afterward, or was it still just kind of like, this is we're just going through what we're going through and we're just going to keep moving?
You know, I don't really think I have any insight on that.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Companies that do military weapons research and development
Mhm.
started putting their face around the base, and we could see like we had Raytheon, and I knew about Raytheon as a lower enlisted because they were giving us holographic EOTech sights on our weapons back in 2003, and nobody had those at the time.
Yeah.
It's not a common thing. We also got lasers, and we got short barrels, and it just made everything
Yeah.
like really cool and nice. We even got special uniforms called a close combat uniform, which is a desert uniform with patches. I was telling you about that when we met up. We got 2 special uniforms and then 4 regular desert camo.
Okay.
And then they gave us like woodland camo body armor with the desert, so it looked like green with brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we got new Mitch helmets at the time when like nobody else had them. It was all the regular Kevlar K-Pot.
Interesting.
And everybody had M4s with rails on them. Like we were outfitted really well.
Yeah.
And then we got tons of time with sim rounds, which is sim munition, like blue bullets.
Okay.
Oh,
Shoot
interesting.
chalk,
Interesting.
and you could shoot each other. And we do that, and regular just shooting in sandbagged, like they're bulletproof walls, shoot houses, and you go in clear rooms. And our bread and butter was train up for urban warfare as a Stryker Brigade.
Oh, okay.
So our Stryker Brigade combat team thing was a new innovation with these troop carriers. They had 50 cal with camera on it called a remote weapon system, and then you put troops in the back. And this was spearheaded by General Shinseki, who I believe was the Secretary of the Army at the time.
Really? Oh wow.
Yeah, he's a big deal, and he put a bunch of money like right into our training, and we saw the benefit of that.
Yeah.
And I think part of that was because there was a push after 9/11 to start gearing up.
Yeah, absolutely.
To
put things into perspective here, you said you got an M4, right? You got short barrel M4s, is that what you said?
Yeah, not a musket, not a black powder rifle like you guys had.
I was gonna say, right? Let's cut to this is what time are we talking? 2001, right? Like shortly after 2001.
2002. I was
2002.
Yeah.
Okay, now flash forward 8 years, and most of my battalion did not have M4s.
Interesting.
We had like M16s, M16 A2s or A4s, right? Because that's the good shit. Trust me, I would have loved to have been walking around with an M4, but no. So that's a big deal. That's the point of me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I try not to forget because it's something I don't necessarily love how it works, but it's easy to forget that it's an industry, and so that there are sellers to the industry, and so they do the same thing all salesmen do, where they meet and greet and put on a face and hand out Red Bull and I guess holographic sights, which is just like
lasers.
Yeah, like
here's your guys' lasers. We have a buy two get one free.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's wild.
Well, we also had. Well, I personally remember that I had a scope that was thermal.
That's dope.
And I didn't use it all the time, but I had this bag and I kept it in my my room. And if we needed some thermals, I'd put it on my machine gun and I could see heat.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
and it's
crazy.
better than night vision.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did not have that shit.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
so I was like, I'll see you.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like
Yeah.
I got like I'm like the Predator
Yeah.
with thermal scope on my machine gun.
That is making the giddy boy in me.
I was gonna say,
"Ooh."
and I'm trying to think like you're 18 right now, 19, like
Yeah, I was 19.
You're loving it.
I was 19 in Iraq.
Yeah.
And then I turned 20 over there. I come back, I wasn't even 21.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild, dude.
That's a young kid, man.
Yeah, dude. Holy shit. Thank you, bro. Gee whiz. Yeah, so you kind of already talked about why you chose the job that you chose in the Army. You were saying that you kind of had some like anger issues, and you felt like it kind of matched your vibe at the time in your life, right?
Yeah.
Looking back on it, would you think you would have done a different job, or are you pretty grateful for what you chose?
I mean, I live with no regrets in general. Yeah. I think that the infantry was probably the most hardcore way that I could have gone into. Like, I like things that are real, and it taught me a lot of real lessons. I don't like half measures, and like I got my ass beat by the infantry, man. Mm-hmm. I was absolutely miserable and I was angry, but I learned a lot of things and I'm very safe. I thank God that I've never shot anybody who didn't deserve it.
That dude.
And like when it comes to like enemy engagements, it's like, hey, my weapon works and I'm doing my job. But
yes,
when it comes to innocent people, I'm not pulling that trigger.
For sure.
And so it's definitely made me a very focused and careful person with a firearm.
Yeah, that's huge.
Never had an accident, not one.
That's
good for you,
dude. I'm sure that helps you sleep at night a little bit.
Absolutely, because there's guys that.
Dude, no, I 100%. There are guys that cannot say the same thing.
Yeah, so I feel blessed,
Yeah. Yikes. Yeah, I had a guy that I shared a rack with in Afghanistan. Rest in peace. Shout out to Dominguez, but he used to be a recon Marine, right? So for those of you who don't know, that would be like, I would say the equivalent of like a Navy SEAL in the Marine Corps. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, recon's like Ranger, SF,
Yeah.
SEAL, like they're the Marine Special Ops.
Yeah. And so he, in early 2000s, was in Afghanistan and like on post on a mountaintop, just like throwing bullets like off of this cliff, and a bullet got enough speed where it hit the back and went off.
Whoa.
And he was such a young kid that he was like, contact right, and had to wake up all of his, little
Oh my
fob,
God.
and they all started just shooting into the hills and just complete shit. Like,
Yeah,
that's so
nonsense.
Yeah, dude, holy shit, bro. Like, you fucked up so bad. He would say it with laughter when he would tell us after beers, but it was like, yo, bro, some people could have fucking died.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
like fucking
Be
idiot.
glad they didn't.
Dude, oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. All right, dude. Let's talk some Battle of Najaf. Is that how you say that?
Okay, yeah. The Battle of Najaf
Yeah.
was so I was after if you want a little bit of cohesive timeline here,
Yeah.
we come from Kuwait and we push up past the border into Iraq. We stop in Balad, and there's this base called LSA Anaconda. We go outside of Anaconda to an outpost to intercept incoming mortar fire and any, like shady dealings or whatever's going
Sure.
on, because that's a supply base, and we're there as infantry. We want to protect that.
100%.
So after Saddam gets caught, we relieved 4th ID, who pushed up. They got Saddam, or took credit for getting Saddam. I think it was really
Okay.
special ops. And then 4th ID, they have like that clover patch. Looks like a 4-leaf clover.
Mhm.
It's a diamond. And once we push up to Mosul, we're there doing, like, I want to say the highest op tempo you could think of. Like, you're on QRF, you're patrolling,
That stands for Quick Reaction Force.
you're doing LPOPs or listening posts, observation posts, for listening for like people shooting mortars off, and then
Okay.
you go intercept them,
Mm.
and then raids like every other couple days. So it's a super high op tempo. You got zero time for really sleeping. Okay. And then we get taken off of our rotation to go down to Najaf as part of this task force. And I'm not going to say what it is, but you can imagine what motif they would use for Indian Head.
Right.
And then we are just a company of strikers, so that's four strikers times 3, because it's 3 platoons. And
How many men would you ballpark it? Like, how many men are we talking
50
here?
men a platoon, 40 men, 40, 50, so it's about 150.
Okay.
And that would be 12 strikers. And we take our 12 strikers and we go all the way from the north back down to Baghdad, and then cut across the desert a little bit south of Baghdad. And on our way there, we get into a couple fights, and they start shooting at us. And I remember waking up, and it's like da 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 firefight. And okay, what's going on? And they're like, yeah, they're shooting at us. I see tracers and all that. Looks like some Star Wars lasers.
Yeah.
And then they blow up a bridge. And so now we're waiting, and we're stuck, and we got to get across a bridge with 12 strikers. And this is like a huge, like 4-lane and 4-lane bridge.
Yeah.
A massive bridge.
Daytime, nighttime?
They blew it up in the daytime,
Okay.
and then we had engineers come by
Like
and
combat
say,
engineers?
yeah.
Nice.
And they're like, nah, make new bridge. Set new bridge down. We rolled on. And I was like,
They made a new bridge?
yeah, they basically amended the broken bridge.
It's dope.
And they're
Crazy.
like,
I
yeah,
love
get
it.
the strikers going. And so we were just like, nope.
Romans.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We learned a lot from
It's
them.
a
Yes,
big
sir.
thing.
Yeah.
This is all new stuff for me, but like how much building is a part of battles. Like you got to,
Massive.
it's huge.
Yes.
Build your cover, build new ways to get across things, blow things up.
Yeah.
So we get across this bridge and we head into Najaf, and it was like hours and hours of driving overnight. And that's like 1 day of travel, 2 days of travel almost. And let me say, this guy, Muqtada al-Sadr, he was like a cleric. You can look him up. And he was the leader of the Mahdi army in these green turbans.
Yeah. I got him right here. So sorry to cut you off, dude.
No worries.
I found a website because I was gonna read some of this shit. It's from the history, the We Are We Are the Mighty website, and they have a history of the Battle of Najaf, and exactly what you were talking about. This dude, you said Muqtada al-Sadr?
Yeah,
He's a cleric?
he's a cleric. Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So I just remember we'd see his face around. He's kind of chubby, and he'd always wear like a headdress, like any Iraqi cleric. I can't remember which tribe he was with, the Sunnis or the Shiite. I can't remember. You probably have that.
Shiites.
He was a Shiite. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Big problem between those two groups.
Yes, sir.
They were the most of the violence out of the whole thing. We were there kind of as peacekeepers.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to keep the order. But we went down there to Najaf, and I remember we had to stay outside of the city because it was too violent, or maybe there was an agreement to not go in. And there'd been a lot of fighting there already with Marines, your brethren.
Yeah.
So you read about it. Well, we come up there, and we're outside of the city, and we're staying in this massive expanse of desert area with nothing except for maybe 3 porta shitters.
Okay.
And there weren't enough shitters, so
Yeah.
you'd have to wait in line or go to the slit trench. And that's just a big slit trench in the ground, and
Yeah.
you just sniff the poop while you're pooping
It's great.
and look at butts.
Yeah.
So it was
You
disgusting.
can't take the Marine out of Spencer.
I know, this is my favorite part. I was waiting for this moment.
There's butts.
And so the deal was, we're going to be there, and depending on what the president wants, we might storm this mosque and just start doing our thing.
And so that's a big deal, right?
Very big deal.
Storming this mosque is like a huge,
Okay.
like, holy shit, we can't necessarily just go into a mosque.
Yeah.
That's like a huge story arc of this battle.
They're called culture and artifacts protected targets.
No shit.
Yes.
Okay.
And so we're not just able to shoot at mosques or go in them and desecrate them. We don't
Right.
do that.
Right.
We're good peoples. We're a civilized nation, right?
Yep.
Right.
So we stayed there for a few days, and during our stay, we did a patrol to one of the neighboring areas. And this is probably the scariest thing I can describe in the whole country. And there was zero contact with any enemy shooting at us. So we go in to this city, and you imagine like a western town,
Right.
very small, but it's got these buildings that you see in the Middle East instead of saloons or whatever. And we pull up, and everybody starts putting their stuff away and clearing out. And they're all dressed in black gowns, men and women and children. They're all in black.
Wow.
And a lot of them don't have their faces showing.
Yeah.
And we pull up in our Strykers, and my perspective is my EOTech sight and the nose of my M249 in the air guard hatch in the back of the Stryker. And we're parked. And people are just giving the most deadlock 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
Yeah.
And it was like nothing. I could hear nothing. And it was the most stuffy, stale air you could ever imagine in the middle of the desert. And I was like, I'm about to start killing people.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Like, anybody does anything, I'm going to start shooting people.
Dude, yeah.
And it was like, I felt like the energy and the vibe was like super uncomfortable. And
For sure.
and I talked with some of my buddies. They 100% agree. Like, it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
Like, there was an air about that place that was just like tense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap. They didn't do anything, and I was totally ready. But it was scary, man.
That.
And then we left. We got a sign, a poster of Muqtada al-Sadr, and we go back to our little area where we're sleeping next to tanks and whatever, and Marines. There's other people there. And long story short, President Bush calls a freaking peace deal, and there's a ceasefire between the U.S. forces and Muqtada al-Sadr. So right then and there, we pick up and leave because there's a bunch of fuel trucks with MPs as convoy security going up and down the MSR, main supply route of the country, and the fuel trucks are just getting slammed with RPGs and IEDs,
Right.
improvised explosive
Yep.
devices. And so we were taken from what we were doing in this task force to convoy security as Stryker infantry. And so we went back to Anaconda, stayed in Tent City there, no hard shelter. And we started doing convoy security. And I talked to somebody at a training center many years later, and there's this female sergeant first class, or E7. And she's like, yeah, I was in Iraq as a crew person on a helicopter, Chinook. And so she said she remembers that time when their fuel trucks were getting hit. No aircraft could leave the ground because they ran out of fuel.
Oh,
And
really?
then remembers the Strykers coming in, and then they could fly their helicopters again.
Huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, full circle.
Yeah.
I talked to somebody, and they're like, oh, we remember you guys.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
And I'm like, dude, I didn't know if we were doing anything important. I
Right.
remember seeing the burning tanker trucks, the KBR trucks with
Yep.
fuel, right? Because KBR was over there.
Yeah.
And so it's like, all right, well, we did have an effect. And there were people that were going to not get medevaced out because no one could fly, not get air support. And there were people that were probably not going to get food because food trucks were also being part of that supply line.
Right.
And so our efforts were like helping all of this huge American base of all these troops over there. And I had no idea at the time. I was like, yeah, this is just boring convoys. Like we were kicking in doors and blowing up doors and going in and taking people. And like we went from that to go sit in the desert and look at the writing on the porta shitters and read the jokes and the Chuck Norris jokes,
That's
right?
the thing, yeah.
Heard all about that.
And then we go to convoy security, which is if anybody shoots at the convoy, we drop ramp, and like 20 dudes are going to get online and start shooting with small arms, and 50 cals are going.
Whoa.
And I'm thinking like dudes, MPs in Humvees just weren't equipped for that, whatever they were doing,
Right.
and they got rolled up. So we were kind of excessive convoy security.
Yeah.
Because we just rush them, and that's kind of the blink of an eye Najaf battle was. We go there, like I know there's some guys that got in some fights out there. We got in a fight on the way there, and then there were some scouts that got rolled up, and they had to like retreat or whatever you want to call it, like break contact because we don't retreat, right?
Oh, is that what it's called? It's called breaking contact.
It's called break contact because we don't run away, we don't retreat.
So
So you guys can't say tactical retreat?
We don't say retreat. The only retreat we have is like at the end of the day when we get off work. There's a bugle call called the retreat.
Okay.
There's a reveille in the morning.
yeah, it's kind of like how Marines are super douchey, and they're like, it's not a what do they call it? It's not a foxhole, it's a fighting hole. Like
Cool.
stupid shit. Like calm down,
This is important.
foxhole.
People are just as douchey in the army about stuff, man.
Yeah, dude, it's a cult. So I mean, one thing that was really interesting while I was looking up stuff on the Battle of Najaf was just simply, myself included, how many people don't know about it.
I had no idea.
It is such like a forgotten battle of the Iraq War. Like prior to you being involved in what we got going on here, I would have never fucking known about this.
Yeah, and I used to see signs of Muqtada al-Sadr in Baghdad and all over the country, and we were like, I hope we get him, like we were gonna get him, and then he kind of backed down and started playing ball. But his green turbans were going around universities and kicking all the women out of school and like killing and raping them. Like it was terrible.
So wait, do you how do you feel? Like, how did you at the time feel about George Bush negotiating with this guy and coming up with a ceasefire? And then how do you feel now, like hindsight?
At the time, I was angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
Because here's the thing. The infantry is a profession where they make you angry and want to kill people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so it's like,
Yeah,
it
that's a good
sucks.
point.
And they want the troops in the infantry to be like pit bulls on leashes,
Mm,
just starving and pissed.
yeah.
Let him go.
And so when it's time to fight, infantry soldiers are like, sprint out the gate
Yeah.
and kill whatever as fast as you can.
Mhm.
And so that's what it was like, staying in that little area in the desert waiting to storm this mosque.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to get some. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, no.
Yeah.
Break off and do convoy security. Yeah. Okay. That sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of what the entire fucking Jarhead book
I'll
and
say
movie is about. Like they
It's
train,
total Jarhead vibes.
yeah, they train all this time to learn how to kill and snipe, and he never gets to do it. That's a crazy what that's gonna do to someone's mental health. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
like the mental gymnastics of that. Let's see here. So again, shout out to this website, We Are the Mighty. They kind of go into talking about like some of the tactics of the Battle of Najaf. Says here, urban battle. Both sides displayed unique tactics. The Mahdi, was it Mahdi or Mahdi? Mahdi army held their ground against a formidable foe. The Mahdi army included mostly young, ill-equipped, and poorly trained fighters. It didn't appear to stand much of a chance against the highly skilled and technologically advanced United States. And the Iraqi forces were with you guys?
Yeah, well, we had a lot of people from Iraq that we would train on weapon systems.
And how were they? You can be
like,
honest.
Like they had like 2 left feet, and some of them, like I remember the Iraqi National Guard in Mosul pulling up to a scene where a guy had shot his pistol at somebody. Didn't kill him. The Iraqi National Guard were there on scene, and I was like, do we need to put him down? No, let the Iraqis deal with him. And they scooped him up, put him in handcuffs, and like took him away pretty quick. And they were pretty safe with their AKs.
Okay.
So some of them were competent, but a
Yeah.
lot of them were kind of like goofy-footed, and I guess just they were just ill. Like that. Some of them were really good, and some of them were not. But I'd say the majority of them probably not very good.
Okay. It says here that you guys got to do precision airstrikes, armored vehicles, cutting-edge weaponry. They had rocket-propelled grenades and snipers, small arms fires. One of the most notable aspects of the Battle of Najaf was the Mahdi army's strategic decision to use the historic Imam Ali Shrine as a stronghold, which is what you were talking about, right? Did you get to go in there?
I did not get to go in there.
Okay.
I never even saw it.
No
That's
shit.
how far
Okay.
away they
Got
wanted
it.
us to stay away from it.
Got it. This move complicated the United States and Iraqi's forces' missions because they had to engage with the enemy and preserve a holy site at the time. It is really interesting, right? That the United States has like the moral high ground right there. Like, we're not going to blow up your mosque.
No.
Yeah.
No. And
Yeah, you have to get who approves that? Because that happened in World War II a lot. Like when we were first going into Italy, they thought the Nazis were in like this Catholic temple, and so they had to get approval to bomb it because they weren't allowed to bomb it because it was like a holy site.
Yeah.
And it took them forever to do it. It doesn't end up well because they end up blowing it all up, and there were no Nazis in it, just people.
Well, gee, would that be like Geneva Convention, you think, or?
so Geneva Conventions was agreed upon after World War II. So the way NATO and the Geneva Conventions works is anybody that's part of it should have like the moral high ground or
Sure.
should exercise these rules and standards so as to not commit war crimes, because
Right.
we feel like as civil society we should not descend into barbaric methods. And
That's
so
fair.
they have rules like, if you can help it, don't kill somebody with a 50 cal machine gun and turn them into pink mist.
Yeah.
Right.
Put a friggin' 308 7.62 by 51 or a 5.56 round into them
Yep.
and kill them in a humane fashion. Or don't use grenade launchers or anything like that against people. Use it to destroy, machines.
Vehicles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do I really agree with all of that? I don't know. It's up for debate. I mean,
Right.
Yep.
war is killing people.
Yep.
So
It is hard once you're like,
like
what size round?
we draw the line?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I guess.
I'm just like, hey, if they're gonna kill either me or my buddies around me, which my mission in my heart was like, I'm not gonna let any of my buddies die if I
Right.
can help it, and I'm gonna just totally destroy the enemy.
Right.
Like, I don't care how we do it, personally.
Right.
But I understand why they try to be humane and have
Sure.
rules, and as civil society, we have the privilege to do that.
Yep.
And if we don't have civil society, then we don't have those privileges, and it's to tear your enemy to pieces any way you
Sure.
can to win.
Yep. Like we did in the revolution.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, because now we are in that position,
Yeah.
but we weren't always.
True. Absolutely true. Well, fuck, dude. Dude, thank you for sharing some of that shit, even though,
Yeah.
you know, it puts you back in some pretty intense moments in your life. I know you're kind of far removed from it now, right? Years and years after the fact.
Well, can I ask a question?
Please.
So, because you were talking about like how angry it made you, and kind of that was where you're at in high school too. But like when I talked to you, you're such like a nice person to talk to. So like when do you think the change started happening?
Okay, so you're talking about like sociopath tendencies, all right? So I'm learning how to channel my anger into destroying an enemy,
Right.
using it as part of a machine, which is our squad and team, fire team, and we want to accomplish a task. Well, I want to be good at what I'm doing,
Right.
and I want to accomplish a mission.
Sure.
I also want to bring credit upon the country in which I serve and the military. So there are these things that are in conflict, and once you start seeing that killing people and justice need to be very close together, and if you start becoming numb to human life and the loss thereof, then you're not really a human. And I started examining myself after being in Iraq, and I was thinking about how I really didn't care about anybody or miss anybody in my family. And I was like, that's weird. I just don't care. Like, if somebody in my family died, I wouldn't even care. But if one of my buddies died, I don't know if I could continue. And so it was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And I just tried to figure out, like, well, do I have a problem? And because of that, I was like, well, maybe I need to examine like my emotions, and I need to put more value on human life because it is valuable, and I care about these guys that I'm with, but I'm losing the sensitivity to like people that I used to care about.
Right.
And do I want to just indiscriminately not care about people who get killed for any reason? Like, and then so while I was over in Iraq, I also remember, here's another one that stuck out to me. We were doing a raid, and we had a SEAL team or something that we were doing a raid with. And I think we did the raid, and we blew up a car and a gate to the house. And SEALs show up. They got lost on the way there. And so, like, I'm not going to
That was great.
say who it was. But, like, everybody in my unit was like, dude, these guys are goofballs. Like, I thought they were Navy SEALs.
This dude's, for listeners, this dude's smile, bro.
That
when
was
he said
huge.
that.
That was huge.
All right. I got nothing bad to say
Yeah.
about SEALs, man. They're great. But, like, this particular thing, they got lost. So,
That's the best.
What do you say about it?
It's
right?
the best.
What do you say? I won't say which team it was.
Hey man, fucking Navy SEAL, Hollywood has ruined them, bro. Like the way that the average American views a Navy SEAL is that they fucking are Jesus.
They're,
Like,
they're just dudes, man.
I love the humanizing moment.
They
They got lost like everybody gets lost sometimes.
Yes, sir.
They have great training. They got great weapons, and they're chill dudes. I talked to them, and they're just like, "Hey, what's up, man? Where's Bob?" You know, I was like, "All right, cool." You know, and we're all like hard-nosed, angry infantry dudes. And so we get in this house, and we're there to capture one of the people on the deck of cards. And this lady comes out, and she comes up to me, and she's like, "Hey, you guys blew up my car and my gate," and talked to me in like straight up English. And I'm like, "Who's this Iraqi lady talking to me in English?" She's like, "I am a doctor. I am educated." Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "Hey, I'm really sorry about damaging your stuff. We have people in civil affairs, and if you speak with them, they can sort out any damages that we did, and you'll be reimbursed. I'm just doing my job, and I'm very sorry that you'd have to deal with this. Because if this happened to me and I was in my country, I'd be very upset. So I apologize, and I don't mean anything to like bring you harm. You know, we're just doing our job, and I felt like I was out of position. You know, like, because this lady's upset. And I was like, holy crap. And so I realized, like, if I put myself in her shoes, like, that's messed up.
Yeah.
Americans come in, mess up your gate, mess up your
Exactly.
car, and
Yeah.
then take your husband away. And it's like, what did he do? I don't know. Maybe he was up to no good.
Yeah.
But, like, it's not personal. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to, like, inflict injury on somebody
Right.
unnecessarily if I can help it. And it's like, we're just in people's houses, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it just made me think. And I felt like I came back a different person. I was partly ruined, but also changed for the better in some ways,
Mhm.
because I had to reflect.
Yeah.
You know, what was I doing? And why did I want to kill people so bad?
Right.
As a young man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, I don't know. I hope that answers your question.
It absolutely does. Thank you. That.
Yeah, I mean, to caveat kind of what you're talking about, Ron, I remember in Marja, you know what HIMARS are, right? Like some precision rockets, right?
Mm-hmm.
We did an airstrike while we were in Marja, and fucking it killed like a family, like an innocent family. There was some collateral damage, and the way that we dealt with that is, you know, one of our captains went over to the family and we paid him. And I remember in my mind thinking, dude, they don't give a fuck about our American currency. Like, imagine if, you know, we here in the United States, someone killed our family with collateral damage, and they're like, here is 50,000 rupees. You're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this, dude? Like, it was interesting optics, to, like you were saying, just as a kid to watch this go down. It was like, if this happened to me, I would be fucking infuriated, bro. It's going to foster more radical terrorism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. We're now starting to look at the global war on terror in the review mirror, and I have to constantly remind myself, like, holy shit, did that happen? Was I a part of that? And I was. You know what I mean?
It is totally bizarro land. It's now 20 years ago,
Mm.
and I
That's
sometimes can't believe that I was in the dark with night vision, blowing doors in
Yeah.
as the point man into a house where I don't know what the hell's in there, and it's just insane. And we did so many of them, and none of my buddies got shot or killed, and I'm just so thankful.
Yeah.
100%.
Like, I remember there was a time when we were going into a house and I seen a head pop up in the window, and I had my saw pointed at the window, and I was like, fuck, what's that? And then I saw it was a little kid. There you go.
Yeah.
And I didn't do anything, but it like startled me, and I'm like, we're ready to go in the door. What are they going to do? And I didn't see a weapon, so I didn't pull the trigger. But, like, dude, little kid's head almost came off.
Yeah, dude, think about
Yeah.
how many dudes that have the exact same job as you in, like, the army.
That's my
who
thing, it's like-
absolutely would have pulled the fucking trigger.
Yeah, it just, like, in the dark, curtains come out and the head pops up.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, it's like those are like the butt pucker factor goes right up.
Yep.
And you're like, oh god, it's a good thing I didn't do that.
Yeah. Fuck, dude. What do you? I mean, it's kind of an odd question. I don't know. Like, what do you do nowadays to kind of help with some of the traumatic shit that you've seen? Like, do you do anything? You know what I mean? Like, for example, when I was going to the VA for therapy and kind of like addressing some of my issues, like I got really into fucking like yoga and shit like that. Like, is there anything that you do now that helps you kind of stay on planet Earth and grounded and shit like that?
I do appreciate yoga. I don't do enough of it.
Me too.
Exercise is always good, no matter what. I don't do enough of it, but I do enough to stay in shape.
Yep.
Breathing exercises, breathing in through the nose and focusing on the breath, huge. I do a lot of like when I'm active in it, surfing is
Yeah.
really good.
Oh, that's right. You were telling me that. Yeah.
So I started surfing with some veterans, in a group through the VA.
Dude, can you say that
Cool.
for anybody out there who would want to be a part of that? Is there a name for that?
Yeah, it's called the Veteran Surf Alliance.
Veteran Surf Alliance. I'm going to put a link to that in our bio for this episode. So if you want to get a link, they have like a website and shit?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah.
They use GroupMe for their communications.
Okay.
But if you ask the VA, they should know about Veteran Surf Alliance.
Fucking cool. I used the Veterans Yoga Project when I did yoga. There's a lot of fucking really cool shit out there for veterans, dude. It's fucking awesome. It's fucking hella cool.
I think you can go on a fishing boat too.
That's
the VA.
dope. That's dope.
I haven't done it yet, but
yeah, I've seen that there's like fly fishing things that they have for veterans and stuff like that. It's cool to see our country kind of bind together and be like, hey, we should probably not treat these guys like Vietnam vets. You know what I mean? Like when I go to San Francisco and I see Vietnam vets on the side of the street, I think that should be fucking illegal in this country. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of like I've seen half and half. Like I'll give you an example, something good. When I was over there in Iraq, guy I know is a lawyer. He got his whole law firm to send me care packages. And so there was one day when I was in Iraq that I got 14 boxes of goodies.
Whoa.
And I became like the platoon warlord.
Yeah.
With all the freaking snacks. Like Mogadishu, right?
Yeah.
I was like the Mogadishu warlord with all the snacks.
Yeah, cutting off all the food.
I was like, oh, you want some snacks? You were nice to me that one time.
Give me a back rub, bitch.
Yeah, so there's some cool stuff. People are cool. They show a lot of support.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So are you still close with the people you served with?
Yeah, there's a buddy of mine named Juan Alvarado, and he was I taught him how to use the saw.
Okay.
And he became, the squad saw gunner on one of the fire teams. He ended up going back to Iraq same time I did, but I was going as transportation. Juan went back and he took a round to the chest, Dragunov rifle. So it's a 7.62 precision rifle, sniper. Shot him in the chest. It came out of his shoulder blade, blew his back out, and then he went back home to the hospital and then came back to Iraq. And I met up with him. And I was like, what the heck are you doing back here? Not only that, but on a raid, they blew up a gate. They blew open a gate, and this dude lost like half his pinky because his glove got stuck when the gate opened up. You know those like car gates.
Yeah, absolutely.
And his glove got stuck, and his finger went with it, and he didn't even feel it. And it's like some people weren't all that lucky.
Yeah.
There were some people on my second deployment. The second deployment was, I think, worse as far as like injuries and shit. Like I put a lot more bullets downrange.
Yeah.
And there were some people that were killed that probably shouldn't have been killed. But there was an EFP, which is an explosive form projectile, and it's imagine 8 cylindrical solid copper bars.
Okay. Set
up with explosives behind them, angled up at a 45-degree angle, and it shoots holes through the armor. Yeah. And it goes right through. It cuts like butter. Yeah, a girl lost her tits. She's in I believe the gunner hatch for some reason. She lost her tits.
Like legit. Boobs are gone.
Boobs are gone. Yeah, they got wiped off her body.
Oh, that's terrible.
And then another guy lost his like hamstring on his leg, and he was kind of fucked up. And like I remember that, like it was right outside of this base called Taji, and like, dude, people just get fucked up if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so some of like the hate that we sent back, it was justified because like they're just trying to kill us with these stupid EFPs and IEDs, man. And like you don't see anybody around. Sometimes they'll do complex ambushes, shoot RPGs and AKs. I actually have some footage of one of them. If you guys want to check it out.
Yes. That's going to be a solid yes.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I was lucky. So I talked to my squad leader, and I talked to a lot of my buddies. Like I keep in contact with most of them. Good. And my squad leader, he's a staff sergeant at the time. He said he felt like we were sheltered in the Stryker Brigade because the Stryker Brigade was like the top of the top
Mm.
project in the Army at the time. And we got all that money and funding.
Right.
So we were high op tempo, but nobody like touched us for the most part. Like none of us got killed or hurt. Like some people, like one dude got shot in the throat and another guy got shot in his calf. And then there were a lot of concussions from explosives.
Yeah.
I know a mortar landed right next to my room on the other side of a HESCO barrier. And I remember my PS2 fell on the ground because I was playing a PS2 game. I don't even remember what game it was, but it was like my TV just on the ground. And then I was like, oh crap. I go outside, get in the bunker.
Yeah.
And then I go around to the other side and try to find out where that blast hit. And it was like, my room is here.
Jeez.
The barrier's here. Round is on the other side of the barrier.
Yeah.
So it was like close calls, man. Like, hey, I don't know when I'm going to die, but if I die, it's like, whatever.
Guess sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
And then there was a dining facility on Fob Merez in Mosul. Got hit in 2004. And I was too annoyed by the fact I had to wear all my body armor and kit to go to the dining facility. Yeah. So I just rat-fucked MREs, got all the snacks out of them. And then like 17 people got hit from one mortar round or something. Like, boom, one day. And I didn't go to the defect that day. I mean, you're just lucky.
Yep.
Or not.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Making good decisions, but also luck. Holy shit.
It's luck, man.
Yeah, that's wild, dude.
So if you're protected, like you got someone watching over you, like that's a blessing. And
Yeah.
I was lucky that none of my squad mates got hit.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Massive. That's cool that you're still in contact with them, dude. I think that's kind of I think that's the name of the game here, folks. I think that that's something that's really good for veterans or anybody who's been through trauma is that like it's important to hang out with people who've had similar experiences, and it's good to be able to talk about these things. It's a cathartic nature to it to just be able to talk. I mean, it took a long time to get here. No doubt, dude. When I first came back from Afghanistan, I was not going around telling everyone about my experiences, but like I said, we're in an interesting time where people our age, the veterans of the global war on terror, we're clear. It's in the rearview mirror, and we're able to kind of just like comfortably talk about it, and it's a cool time, dude. I'm kind of excited for what veterans our age are doing with just like writing books and doing podcasts and sharing their story, dude. It's fucking huge to be a part of, you know, immortalizing your story and putting it out there. Like
and here's the thing, like every time I reach out to somebody, they seem really happy about it.
Right. Absolutely.
And if I ever get to hang out with any of my old bros, dude, it's a great time.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a time warp. Like you travel back in time and it's like, hey, it's the next day after I got out again. Like here we are. Because we just catch up based on that last interaction and we're still bros.
Yes, sir.
And you can't have a combat family of bros that you went over there with again. You just have that once and that's it. Yeah. So you share something with somebody and it's really nice and it's cool.
Yeah, because I've been reading about it in Masters of the Air, and the line was something, one of the people that were working on the bombers, they're saying it was the only thing that matters is human relationships when you're in these combat situations. The only thing that you care about is the people around you, and you have the best conversations you'll ever have, and you know more about them than you know about yourself. And then he says at the end, it's just a shame that it takes a war for you to get this close to people. And it's really been sticking with me. Like, that's the level of closeness, like so much that you wish that everybody could get that with everybody, and it didn't take like such heightened levels of intensity to get to that point.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I'll give you a little insight onto why I think that's the case, and that is because no one is actually tested on their character.
Sure,
until they're tested on their character.
Yeah,
and so if you have something that involves life and death and such brutality, then you've tested.
Yep.
And they're saying, well, you know what? In this situation, this guy did this.
Yeah, they had my back when.
And so it's like, hey, I trust you, man.
Yep.
Yes.
I know. And so, like, the war is as unfortunate and barbaric and brutal as it is, it has its blessings contained within, like silver lining, as you will.
Absolutely.
Beautifully said, sir. Beautifully said. Well, shit. Do we end on that note?
Yeah, we have to end on that.
Okay. Yeah. So we usually stick around for about an hour, dude. Ron, for real, dude.
Seriously.
I can't even begin to express to you how grateful I am to be in the same room as you, dude.
Same here.
Like, genuinely, bro. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit, thank you for coming here, bro. Moves me to damn near tears. I say this whenever we have a veteran on. You know, the numbers aren't good, bro. People, veterans are taking their lives. It's like 60 plus a day or something like that. So the fact that you're around, bro, is a massive deal. We appreciate you for sticking around. And I know that I love you, dude. So thank you so much for being on here, dude. If there's a veteran out there who's dealing with, you know, pain, reach out to us, battlebuddiespod@gmail.com. We will absolutely talk to you.
Talk to us on anything. Talk to us on Instagram. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So you
And get your disability rating
get your disability rating.
so you can at least get support. Right?
Absolutely.
You can hit us up and I can walk you through that process
Yep.
as well. I've been walking multiple human beings on planet Earth, figure out how to do that. It's a very achievable goal. So yeah, dude, hopefully we made you feel like this was about you, because it was. So thank you so much. Listeners, holy shit, dude, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully this was as entertaining for you and informative for you as it was for us. Ron, we have a tradition here at Battle Buddies that when we sign off, we together say bonsai. So if you'd like to join us in that, what I say is, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Battle Buddies, and until next time, bonsai.